All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are tackling a huge question. One that has a surprisingly simple answer, and it's backed by decades of incredible research. So, here it is. What is the single biggest secret to a happy life? For years, we've been told the answer is probably success, or maybe it's health, or having a lot of money. But it turns out the real answer from researchers is something way more fundamental, and it's probably not what you're expecting. Happy people feel loved. That's it. That is the simple yet really profound answer from relationship scientist Harry T. Reyes. But wait, if it's that simple, why isn't everyone happy? Well, it turns out the problem isn't actually a lack of love, but an issue with how we perceive it. And this right here is the crucial point. Researchers Sonia Lyubomirsky and Harry Rice argue the real problem isn't that there's not enough love in our lives. The problem is what they call a perception gap. A survey of almost 2,000 Americans found that two-thirds of people wish they felt more loved by the people who are already in their lives. So the love is there, we're just not feeling it. And bridging that gap, it's not just some nice self-help idea, it's actually become a matter of life and death. You see, this perception gap has some pretty devastating consequences. When we don't feel the love that's all around us, the result is loneliness. And this isn't just a personal feeling or a private problem, it's a full-blown public health crisis. Take a look at this number, 871,000. That is the staggering estimate of how many people die each year just from the effects of loneliness. That's a number declared by the World Health Organization. It puts social disconnection right up there with the world's biggest health threats. But to really get a grip on how dangerous this is, we need to put that number in perspective. And if that number still feels a little abstract, the US Surgeon General put it in these terms. The mortality risk of being socially disconnected is similar to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. It's actually even greater than the risks we associate with obesity and not getting enough exercise. And the scale of this epidemic is just massive. Let this sink in. Globally, 1 in 6 people experience loneliness. In the United States, it's even worse. A staggering 57% of Americans report feeling lonely, and 1 out of every 5 adults feels that way every single day. And look at young people. Nearly 20% around the world feel like they have absolutely no one to turn to for support. This is the reality we're facing, and it's exactly why understanding the science of connection is so vital. Okay, so this is where it gets really fascinating. The evidence for our deep need to connect isn't just some emotional, fuzzy idea. It's biological. It is literally written into our brains, our bodies, and the longest-running studies on human life ever conducted. Let's start with the absolute gold standard, the Harvard Study of Adult Development. When it began way back in 1938, researchers thought happiness would come from things like getting a great job. But by its 50-year mark in 1988, a stunning pattern started to emerge. It was relationship satisfaction that was the key predictor of future health. Now, with over 88 years of data, as detailed in the book The Good Life, the findings are just undeniable. After all that time, the study's director, Dr. Robert Waldinger, summed it all up with this one sentence. And the data is just incredible. How satisfied you were with your relationships at age 50 was a better predictor of your physical health at age 80 than your cholesterol levels were. The key to healthy aging is relationships, period. And our brains completely back this up. Neuroscience shows us that social rejection, a broken heart, feeling left out, it activates the exact same regions of the brain as physical pain. Your brain literally cannot tell the difference between a broken bone and a broken heart. We are truly hardwired to connect. So if we're so hardwired to connect, what keeps getting in our way? Well, a lot of the time, it's our own thoughts. Researchers have identified this cognitive bias they call the liking gap. Have you ever left a party or a meeting just replaying every single dumb thing you said, totally convinced you made a terrible impression? Yeah, that is the liking gap in action. We're so busy being our own worst critic that we completely miss the fact that the other person actually enjoyed talking to us and liked us way more than we think. This is just another form of that perception gap we talked about earlier. And here's the biggest paradox of all, discovered by researchers at UC Berkeley. It turns out directly pursuing happiness actually makes people less happy and more lonely. But there's a loophole. When people pursue happiness by investing in social connection, in their relationships, that paradox just disappears. Happiness isn't something you can chase. It's a byproduct of connection. Okay, so the science is crystal clear. Connection is the key, and our own minds can sometimes get in the way. We know the what and the why, so now let's talk about the how. How do we actually bridge that perception gap and build the stronger connections our brains and our bodies are craving? The research gives us some very practical, very powerful tools. This right here is the core takeaway. So many of us think that to be more loved, we have to become more lovable, get more attractive, more successful, whatever. But the research says that's just wrong. That whole approach just creates more distance. The real secret is to change the nature of our interactions.
These 5 mindsets are the keys to actively changing the conversation. They're all about fundamentally shifting our focus away from ourselves, worrying about how we're coming across, and onto the other person. It's about being vulnerable enough to share the real you, listening to genuinely understand instead of just waiting for your turn to talk, and being radically curious about the people who are already in our lives. This is how we close that perception gap, one conversation at a time.
And if you need just one simple tool to get started, this is it. 3 simple words. Tell me more. It is the ultimate expression of curiosity and care. It invites the other person to share, to go deeper, and it's the foundation of a much, much better conversation. Now, these principles don't just work for individuals. We can actually see them playing out on a massive scale in the world's happiest and longest-lived communities. They don't just leave connection up to chance, they build it right into their culture. In Okinawa, Japan, one of the world's blue zones where people live these exceptionally long, healthy lives, they have a concept called a moai. I mean, imagine this. From the age of 5, you are placed into a small, committed group of friends for your entire life. This isn't just a casual group of buddies. It's a built-in social and financial safety net. If someone gets sick, the moai helps their family. It's a structure that guarantees that for your whole life, you know you belong and you are cared for. This is what felt love looks like when it's built into the very fabric of a society. And this solution doesn't have to be as formal as a moai. Even the simplest acts of connection can have a huge impact. This data from the World Happiness Report is pretty striking. People who regularly share meals with others rate their overall life satisfaction significantly higher than those who usually eat alone. Just think about that. The simple, ancient act of breaking bread together is a powerful tool for well-being. It's a small change that makes a real, measurable difference. So, let's boil all this incredible science down. First, and most importantly, remember the perception gap. The core problem usually isn't that you're unloved, it's that you might not be feeling the love that's already there. Second, the best way to close that gap and actually feel loved is to proactively give love and attention to others. And finally, build a diverse social portfolio. Every connection matters, from your deepest friendships to that daily chat with your barista. They all help fight loneliness. The science is clear. The path to happiness runs right through connection. It's not about trying to get more love, it's about giving it. So, I'll just leave you with this question. Who will you connect with today?